Hi guys, Nori here. What if the language that you speak actually decided or differentiated the way that people see the world and have a different perspectives? And I got very curious. So in this video, I would like to explore how Japanese speaking people and then English speaking people, just because they are my two languages that I know and speak, how they see the world differently and how the brains function a little bit differently, and maybe learning either languages if you speak either languages. Well, if you're watching this YouTube video in English, so if you learn Japanese, you might start to have a very different perspective. So let's get into that. Whole theory that I am pulling from is by Dr. Tadanobu Tsunoda. Venerable doctor, thank you so much. His work in figuring out how Japanese speakers' brains work. It is considered sort of a pseudoscience in the mainstream linguistic field. It's a little bit unfortunate, but that's okay. I have to say, today in the science, at least those mainstream field have figured out that there are scientific difference between Japanese people process and hear the sound of insects as opposed to the English speakers or any other languages that are consonant dominant. So let's get into that first. So there are vowel sounds and there are consonant sound. And vowels are basically the sound in the languages that comes from the clear airflow on your throat. And all of the languages, the basis is vowels. And the consonants are the sound that we manipulate our mouth and teeth and the shape of it, and then sort of constrict the airflows over our mouth to create the sound. So the sound of consonant does not come straight from the throat. So there are about 7,000 or so languages in the whole world, which is amazing. There are only few handful that are vowel dominant languages. All the languages have kind of both sounds, but to have the vowel dominant languages, apparently there are only few, and Japanese happen to be one of them. And others are few of the Polynesian languages, according to this book in Japanese that I was reading as a research. But for the fact, I know I had the privilege to work with some Colombian elders, the indigenous elders, and their indigenous languages that they spoke. I thought it was very similar to share some words, the Japanese and their language. And I feel like theirs sounded a lot more vowel dominant and really close to the nature sound. But we'll get into that. But English is the major consonant dominant language. Whether if your language is consonant dominant or vowel dominant, it really doesn't matter that all of the languages basis is vowel. And this is why that in Japanese, vowels are called boin, which means the sound, mother sound. And consonants are called shin, which is kid sound or child sound, because everybody comes from the mother. So what Dr. Tsunoda has found was very, very interesting. People who speak Japanese will start possibly behaving and seeing things differently. But we'll get into that. So, first of all, before I get into that, I think I need to explain where the sense and the other, like the sense of self and the other as separate entities are processed in our brains. So, self and other separation is processed right by the auditory cortex in our brain, in our right side of the brain. And since the vowel sound, the mother sound, is the basis of all of our languages, and also Dr. Tsunoda has discovered that the right before any sound come out from our mouths to speak, right before that, there was a sound that we're already hearing in our heads inwardly. And then that sound is vowels. It doesn't matter if you're Japanese or if you're English or if you're American, when you're about to form a speech, what you're hearing inside of your head is vowel. Now, English speakers, they hear and they process the vowel sound in the right side of the brain, where the sense of separation of the self and the others is also sort of processed, and then has the spot on the brain to kind of get the signal through, which happens to be right by the auditory cortex on the right side. And when Japanese speaking brain, starts to form that pre-speech, right before the speech, the sound as a vowel, like everybody else, the vowel in Japanese language brain is processed in the left side brain. And the signal is sent straight to the left side speech center of our brain. Then the word comes out to speak. But for the English speaking brain, that vowel that they're hearing right before they form a speech and the sound, then that vowel gets processed in the right side brain, which goes through, and this is only happening like 0.00 something second, just very fast. But in the English speaking brain, that signal of vowel gets processed through the right side brain, then that goes through right by the auditory cortex and also stimulates the sense of self and the other separation clearly, then goes to the left side of the speech, which is processed by the left brain. So the speech calculation, like we all know that all those things are processed in our left brains. But for Japanese people or Japanese language speaking people, we don't have to go through that sense of self and other separation on the right side, because we just process and hear the vowel sound already in the left, which is where the speech center is located. So that Dr. Tsunoda concluded that this is probably the reason why the Japanese language often does not require the subject, which I actually talk like that even in English without subject. And it often drives my husband crazy because he's from here and he's American. But I start to talk without any subject. But it usually doesn't happen in the English language. And that makes sense, that there's a subject-object, that separation is very clear by going through that self and other separation center. Another thing that's really fascinating about Japanese language speaking brain is that we process speech, vowels, consonants, emotional sounds like crying or screaming or laughing or in awe, humming, and animals, birds, and insects, and any nature sounds that we usually hear to feel, it's relaxing. We process those sounds in our left brain, left side, which is the side of logos, the logics, and pathos, like emotionals, and the nature also. Like, how does that work? How do we have so many different things that's processed in the left brain? But it makes sense in a way that we have so many in our Japanese language that onomatope, which is the sound that's put onto the unseen phenomenon, or let's say if there's a breeze that's blowing through, then we will say pew pew. That's like the kind of a sound. We just put the words and then the name onto the sound. And also what we hear in the insect sound, we will hear it as voices. Like oh yeah, that cicada sounds really proud. Or it makes sense that how we can just empathize and then just kind of imagine, and even imagine, not only imagine, but even hear and feel how each phenomenon of the nature, or the insects or animals or plants or birds are saying as voices. It makes sense that our culture is so rooted in animism because of that. It just makes it so much easier to see nature as something that sentient, which is. Some people might feel differently, but nature, every being, everything as sentient, and then just sort of see it that way. So the language really actually plays quite a crucial role in that. Something else that's very interesting about vowel dominant language, and then how the vibration of those vowels spoken with each other really creates, is that when people are speaking Japanese together, Dr. Tsunoda has found out that it creates subconsciously the sense of unity, and then sense of togetherness, sense of like a joint vision. Like, okay, we're seeing this together, we're in this together. That feeling of just unity, and then the sense of the shared ownership, shared vision, shared responsibility, all of that, and even the empathy, all those are more promoted when people are speaking Japanese languages, opposed to when people are speaking English. He has found in his research that people will feel more separation, which I would like you to not take it as negative, because they are all necessary. That's why I am suggesting that the people learn some other languages, because it's just such a fascinating insights. But when people speak in English in general, Dr. Tsunoda discovered that it creates the sense of separation, the boundaries, some responsibility of individuals, and then the individual perspective. And it's like the purpose and goals and just those things to be clear and more like logically in the linear fashion. And I don't know if you have heard this before, but I've heard many times that any meetings that's done in Japanese society, yes, if we are very mindful, then stick to the point. We can just get through the topic and then decide on things. But oftentimes, Japanese meeting just going on and on and on and on until like there is no clear decision at the end of it. I heard that before, and I believe it's still pretty common. And also that feeling of extreme empathy and an extreme unity can work as sometimes extreme peer pressure. So I feel that this particular trait has been almost taken advantage of the Japanese people's strong unity has been taken advantage of and be used against them during the war. So this is why that the people, the Japanese soldier, I know that everybody in the whole world did that, but they not only cared about their own families, but they will fight to their death for their country and for their emperors. Anyways, so that could be a problem. And another thing that's very interesting about Japanese, it's a culturally and the language frequency-wise, what the doctor discovered is that Japanese language is in the range of about 125 hertz to 1500 hertz, which contains a lot of solfeggio frequencies, which is said to have healing and revitalizing and calming, relaxing properties. The English language is a little bit different. It is established that English language spoken in UK has a frequency between about 2000 hertz to 15,000 hertz. US English is a little bit lower, from about 1000 hertz through 4000 hertz, I believe. And what that means is that the lower of the, but not too low, but just a low enough, staying in the range of the frequency is a lot calmer. And then higher frequency, like in the 15,000, like the UK English has as a frequency, it is already proven to have aggressive effects, like to cause aggressive behaviors and feelings in many different animals, probably including humans. So that's actually crazy if we think about that. I'm grateful for the American English that I get to speak here. I do enjoy it. And also, I love hearing all the different people's different accents, including mine. I think it's really cool. But it is just, as an information, it's very fascinating. As a Japanese language and the culture, it focuses on the space and how we see the space, how we feel the space, rather than how English language actually focuses quite a bit on people. That's very fascinating as well. It is actually, it can be seen in some Japanese literature from the original to when it's translated to English. I am not saying all of this to say which one's better or which one's worse. I personally speak both languages, and I feel like it is both of the perspective that we can see in the language culture is absolutely needed. And my feeling is that just like it is said that we are left brain dominant in the modern times because we just see so many informations and we think, and then we think and think and think rather than feel or have more of an intuitive times or more of an artistic expression or music, because the music is even sort of hijacked by the modern world a little bit, but we don't have to get into that. But all those things kind of points that we are, as modern humans, we are quite left brain heavy functioning. And then I feel, this is my own wacky theory again, I feel that it's very interesting that majority of the world language is also consonant dominated languages, which their frequency of their spoken, the speech, might cause more aggression than compared to the vowel dominant, very few vowel dominant languages, which seem to create the harmony with nature, harmony with each other. So that's a very interesting observation. And my feeling is that, I don't know how this will work, but we're in some way asked to learn this and then actually to spread this, because if the language that we speak changes the way we see the world and have a different relationship, I feel like the Japanese language or any other vowel dominant beautiful languages are what we need today, because more than anything, I feel like we need the unity as people of the earth. Yes, we all need to have our own pride in our own lineages and the country and the culture. So I'm not saying that everybody has to be the same, but to have the unity as, yes, we are earth humans, the humanity, then having the clear boundaries of purpose and the goals, and like that is a very powerful combination, especially if you already speak English or any other consonant based languages. So this was my another wacky theory of how English speakers' brain and then the Japanese speakers' brain are a little bit different and then have a different perspective. And learning Japanese might actually change your life in a way that it'll change the way you see the world. So it's about it for this video because it started to rain. Thank you for being with me, and please subscribe if you liked it or comment. And there is a free life story discovery kit in the description. It is a wonderful, wonderful tool to use to get into like more of your journey to figure out your true nature. Not figure out, but really getting back to. And like I said, your lineage is something to be proud of wherever you're from. So that's a wonderful tools to utilize finding that. So I will see you in next video.